Good morning and welcome to Cloud Café from 56-bit. I'm Patrick Camilleri and today we are discussing the fascinating world of Amazon S3. To start off, let's talk a bit about the cloud. So imagine a magical place on the internet where you can store all your magical treasures. It's like having a super-sized toy box that you can access from anywhere, wherever you have internet. But why is cloud storage so useful? Cloud storage basically allows us to keep our files, pictures, videos, usually any kind of static data, safe and sound, without taking up space on our shelves, if we want to keep the analogy of the toys. It's like having a secret vault in the sky for all our digital goodies. Now, let's introduce the star of our show. That's Amazon S3. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service. And as the name implies, it is simple and it's a storage service. Its main purpose is to have a secure and scalable place where to store all your toys. Now, S3 is a single service, it's a single box where to keep your toys. It is very scalable, it's very secure, and it allows you to keep everything neatly organized on Amazon or AWS. Now, let's delve into the key features that make S3 so remarkable. So first of all, we have scalability. One of the superpowers of S3 is that it can scale effortlessly without ever filling up theoretically. It can handle any amount of data you put into it. It's like having a toy box that basically magically expands as the more toys you put in it. So the second superpower is durability. S3 is built to be ultra durable, meaning ultra reliable. It's like having that box of toys, but also having a backup and then another backup of that box of toys. You lose one, it's fine, you have the others. To do this, S3 saves your static data in multiple physical locations, not just one, but actually 3 different physical locations separated by significant distances. Third, we have accessibility. S3 makes it very easy to access that data that you're storing wherever you might need it. If you have internet, you are able to access S3's data. Doesn't mean everyone can go in and access it, because there is authentication mechanisms in the middle, but ultimately, wherever you have connection, you can get it. So now that we're a bit more familiar with the concepts of storing cloud data and the Amazon S3 features specifically, let's talk about a specific feature which is very, very important. So that's the storage tiering, storage tiers. So imagine S3 as having a set of shelves for your toys. Some shelves are easy to access, other shelves are a bit harder to access. Every shelf has its own use and its own cost. Now, S3 is the same. You have multiple tiers, multiple shelves, each with its own cost and use. And that allows us to move data around from one tier to the other to make sure that we don't overspend, but also make sure that we have it as accessible as we need that data to be. So the first tier on S3 we are going to be talking about is S3 Standard. This is like the main shelf of your toy box, right? It's where you have everything you need that you like to play with a lot and you get it as quickly as possible. That's S3 Standard. We use it for frequently accessed data we access a lot on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. It offers low latency, meaning very fast speeds, and high throughput, meaning no matter how much data you get, you're gonna get them at that fast speed. Then we have S3 Standard IA. IA stands for infrequent access. So basically, you have some toys that you don't want to play with a lot. You don't want to throw them away, but you don't want to play with them all the time. So you put them in the top shelf. It's harder to get or more costly to get, but they are still there. S3 standard IA is very similar. So what this does is it allows you to store data that you don't access frequently. Let's say every 6 months you access this data. You put it into this tier and you will still get it as fast as you want, but the cost is higher when retrieving the data. If you're just storing the data though, the cost is lower. So that allows you to keep this infrequent data in a low storage cost tier whilst retrieving it once in a while and ultimately not paying a lot. So the next tier is S3 intelligent tiering. It is intelligent, just like having multiple shelves, and the toys can move from one shelf to the other without you doing anything. So sometimes they are easily accessible or less costly to access. Other times they are more costly to access, but ultimately you don't access them a lot, so it's fine. And that's exactly what S3 intelligent tiering does. It moves your data around depending on how much you're accessing it. Infrequently accessed data is placed into the lower cost standard IA tier, and the rest, the one you access a lot, stays in the standard tier. Next we have S3 one zone IA. So it's one zone and it's IA. IA meaning infrequent access, one zone meaning that we store it in a single location. Before I told you that our toys have a backup of a backup. That obviously costs money. So if you remove the backup of the backup, you end up with a lot less cost. So this is a very cheap alternative, but it's not very reliable. Or rather, relatively, it is not as reliable as the other tiers. And that allows you to reduce costs for things which you don't need to be so reliable. For example, let's say you're storing thumbnails of pictures, small versions of pictures. The original pictures would be stored in a highly reliable tier like S3 standard. The thumbnails, you place them in this one zone IA. And the reason is that those thumbnails can be regenerated should you lose them. Next and last, we have Glacier. Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive. These are two tiers which allow us to archive our data. So it's like having toys that are not on the shelves at all, but you rather get them and put them in the attic. You never use them, but you don't want to throw them away. So same with S3. You have data which you don't want or cannot because of regulatory or compliance reasons. You don't want to throw them away, but you also don't want to spend a lot of money storing them. So you put them in these very, very low cost tiers. To retrieve them takes a while. It can take minutes, hours, depending on the tier, and there are some other features which will speed it up. So those are the different tiers. That's an overview of cloud storage. And ultimately all this allows us to have our data stored in a scalable, durable, accessible, and secure way. Please join us in the next episode as we take the next step in our S3 adventure. Until then, happy cloud computing. To stay connected and never miss a beat, be sure to follow our podcast channel for the latest episodes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to know more about all the updates in cloud and to know more about our upcoming webinars and events.